Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. It is part one of our AutoCAD series titled Introduction to Customizing and Automating Your AutoCAD. We have a couple of presenters today. My name is Patrick Rennie. I am an account manager here at SolidCAD based in Calgary, Alberta. Alongside me today and really running the ship are my colleagues Prem Joseph, who is a technical consultant based out in Ontario, and Mustafa Ali, who is one of our software developers. In terms of an agenda today, we're going to be running over a couple of things. I'm first going to start with a quick introduction about SolidCAD, if this is your first time joining one of our webinars. And then from there, Prem and Mustafa are going to jump into the meat of the discussion today, which is looking at the customizations and automations within AutoCAD. We are going to be leaving some time at the end of the webinar today to run some Q&A. So you might notice on your chat window or in your window, there is a Q&A segment. Please, if you have a question during the session, or during the presentation, just throw your question in there and we will certainly get to it at the end. I'll be monitoring those as we progress. All right. So what's SolidCAD? What do we do? At SolidCAD, we help our clients implement technology and optimize workflows. We do this in a few ways: how you're designing your projects, how you're designing your work, then also by managing how things are being managed within your organization and with external stakeholders, and then ultimately how are you sharing that information, or how are you creating a deliverable that is needed. We do offer some training as well at SolidCAD. We do have facilities across Canada. So the little yellow dots or the orange dots you see on your screen here are where we do offer training. Currently, everything is remote. However, we do look forward to going back to in-person training in the near future. Here's a look at just some of the different organizations or industries that SolidCAD supports. In particular, we definitely have involvement with the architecture, engineering, and construction industries, alongside infrastructure, manufacturing, as well as plant. Now, Prem and I are part of the infrastructure team here at SolidCAD, and this is just an example of the different services that we can provide you as a customer. So anything from training to programming and customization, which we'll be getting into later on in today's discussion, all the way through to direct support if you have something that's going wrong, events such as this or future webinars that might add value to your organization, and then things like workflow optimizations and assessments to make sure that you are running as efficiently as possible. Now, I'm going to hand it over to Prem now, who's going to start talking about today's discussion, which is customizing and automating AutoCAD. Prem, take it away.
Thank you, Patrick. Just give me a second here to share my window. Can you guys see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. How about now?
You're good now.
Good, awesome. All right, so today's session, we're going to discuss about a bit of customization in AutoCAD and automation with AutoCAD platform. I have Mustafa Ali along with me. My background is more on civil infrastructure products, over 20 years in the industry, dealing with different Autodesk products and mainly focusing on civil 3D. Also, AutoCAD is my favorite program when it comes to CAD application. So today we're going to look at mainly the customization, user interface of AutoCAD and the automation part of things. When we talk about the customization of AutoCAD, many companies look in this way of adjusting the interface well suited for their disciplines or the type of job they are working on a day-to-day basis. So the out-of-the-box AutoCAD comes with a wide variety of commands and features. So you may be interested in fine-tuning the interface to cater the needs of that department or a group of projects typically go along with it. And customizing AutoCAD, it's been around for many years from the beginning of AutoCAD, early 1980s. So what Autodesk has done, giving us more and more tools to make this customization, easy and streamlined within the AutoCAD environment. So when you look at generally the interface, there's a big ribbon you'll find and go update the ribbons based on the needs. You'll find quick access toolbars, shortcut menus, pull down menus, all the file menus, keyboard shortcuts, you name it. So there are a number of items we could go in and customize within AutoCAD. The CUI portion, you could launch this interface either by command line or going through the quick access toolbar, or many different ways you can launch the CUI. In a nutshell, this is an external file holding your saved information or custom interface. It comes along with a bunch of workspaces. Out of the box, you could find the AutoCAD workspace under the drafting annotation, 3D modeling, basics for 3D. You could create your own custom interface, and the file extension is typically .cuix. That's the one. AutoCAD.cuix is the custom user interface. You could also have partial CUIs. Partial CUIs means, based on each departments or groups, you could create a set of menus or ribbons and interfaces for that specific group. It's staying outside the generic CUI file, and you could load based on the demand. So you could have this partial CUI file loaded along with the main CUI file, which is the AutoCAD.cuix, and you could go along with it. So that's easy to manage when you have a number of partial CUI files along with the main one. So it's also critical. You don't want to mess up with the original one, the out-of-the-box .cui file. So you could have all your custom items saved as partial CUI files too. So when we specifically look at the ribbon interface, it's organized in few different groups. The main items are the tabs, or under each tabs, you're going to find panels, and in one panel, number of commands in it. And these commands could be organized row by row or by sub-panels or subgroups. Many ways you can arrange them. And that's how the ribbons are organized, with the tabs, panels, and then we add commands within the panels. We also have the ability to include drop downs, adding a separator. You want to add fold panel. A few different ways we can control the interface to make it look more robust and user-friendly within the AutoCAD. When we look at the Quick Access Toolbar, or QATs, out of the box is going to provide you a number of buttons, most commonly used commands. That's the idea under the QAT. File open, new, save, undo, redo. Those are some of the very commonly used commands, right? You could include more by customizing the Quick Access Toolbar. it gives us the option to include even multiple QATs. You could create based on different departments or needs or projects too. You could have a completely different set of commands in a quick access toolbar and different than the out of the box. So the new quick access toolbar allows us to create multiple quick access toolbars. When it comes to menus, we still have them. For the past 20 years or more, they had the pull-down menus in AutoCAD. If you are comfortable using the menus other than the ribbon, you could customize it. You could go with a similar idea of grouping them based on the company needs or requirements. Shortcut menus, you could do your own custom shortcut menus, including additional commands even. Those new commands could arrive from custom Lisp routines or VB applications. And you could provide specific shortcut menus for real custom applications too. When you look at the keyboard's shortcuts, there are a number of hidden commands in AutoCAD included within the out-of-the-box set of functionalities. You could add more. There are a number of commands. You could use the control key or the shift keys, and combination of control and shift. You could create more custom keyboard shortcuts. Also keep in mind, if you have a multi-button mouse, the typical one comes with the 3 buttons. I've seen with 8 buttons and 25 buttons and really custom mouse devices or pointing devices. So you could assign commands to specific buttons in a multi pointing device there. So AutoCAD is really flexible in this case when it comes to dealing with the customization. So what I'm going to do now, take a look at the AutoCAD interface and going to create a custom interface here and the options available within the AutoCAD. I'm running 2022. The steps I'm doing today is applicable to the 2021 version and 2020 because the customization part, is similar steps you can follow in different releases. The first thing I'm going to do from the workspace environment, I'm going to make a copy of the existing one. I'm going to do a save current as. This is the easiest way of customization. You're making a copy of the existing workspace, and you could then apply and test your changes in the copy without impacting the original workspace. So I have a workspace named Seminar, and to launch the customization tool, you could either go from the QAT customize, or in the command line, you could type CUI, right? So there are different areas you can find this similar command in AutoCAD interface too. So this is the full CUI we are looking at it. Different areas in this interface, you will find the existing workspaces there. And the one I made right now, Seminar, let's say if I would like to include some additional tabs or panels other than the out of the box. displayed on the screen. So the step number one is to highlight and then hit the customize workspace on the right side. So everything in this collection becomes blue. And we have the ability to now expand the ribbon or menus and then explore the items already included in it, which is all checked in here. If I would like to have, for example, say solid modeling, all I need to do, click on that item. It will be appearing at the end of that existing workspace. So you could include additional items by simply checking on these items. Okay, and when you're done, that will be displayed on the screen upon applying or saying OK to the interface. Okay, so that's one quick and easy way of making small modifications or updates to your workspace. So I always start with a copy from the existing one, either through the quick access toolbar, or if I'm launching in the COI window, you have the ability to right click on the existing workspace and then make a new or copy or duplicate them and go from the collection there. Another type, okay, in this case, we were including the tabs which was already within the AutoCAD CUI. What if I want to create something new, like a new tab and commands there? We can go to the tabs area. So under the ribbon, when you create a tab, that tab goes along with the panels. So let me start creating a new tab. We're going to call it Seminar 1. And then looking at the panels, the existing out-of-the-box panels are all there. To make a new one, simply right-click and say New Panel. So I'm going to call it Test 1. So immediately that panel is opened and have a row created. So if I need to include a command, say for example, I'm going to need the revision cloud command or revolve command. Let me call the trim command. Once you identify a command, simply drag and drop the command to the row. So that's how simple it is, right? So you could choose the commands and then add to the list. I'm going to call the fillet command. So I got two commands coming up. I could right click. I could add another row. And let me include some of the edit commands. I'm going to call the explode command. So you can see my tool panel is showing the preview on the right side. You could add more items, different rows. You could have sub panels within the row. And choosing the commands from the command list and dragging and dropping to the appropriate rows or subgroups or panels, that's simple it is, right? So you have the interface then populated with the commands. You could go and create your own custom macros also in this interface. Okay, I'm going to look into that. I'm going to show that after a while. Right now, when you make the panels with the list of the commands you want to go, could be system variables, AutoCAD commands, anything listing under this collection. Once it is done, then you need to tell this particular panel is a part of that tab, right? So that's the next part. You go and drag that to the particular tab under the UI. So that's under seminar. So once that's done, simply say apply. I could go take a look at it, and let's see if I have that toolbar ribbon tab is available. I could check that, apply, and it's going to be displayed in the interface. Okay, so you could add more and more and make it your collection specific to the departments or the groups you want to go with it. Also, when you do the customization, some of the customization could be really specific to inserting a block, going into a specific layer, or do some scaling. You know, there are a few things you can apply that kind of operations to. Let's say if somebody wants to insert a block in a specific layer and then associate a scale, rotation, etc., etc. There are a few different ways to do it. If you wanted to create a button using the ribbon interface or pull-down menu or shortcuts, then the steps are, first we need to know the prompt. Okay, in AutoCAD, for example, if I launch the layer command, you know, that's going to be the dialog box coming up. So we may need to provide the command line versions. For example, -LAYER or -L is the command line version, right? So when I do that, so -layer, okay, that's my command. And what's next? Yeah, hit the enter key. So enter key is going to be a semicolon. Then maybe I want to set the layer. Yes, for set the layer, enter. Right? I'm just following the kind of the prompt here. So if I have a layer named buildings, I'll type the layer name. So in other words, you may need to know the prompts on the command line to build your custom buttons within the interface. So the semicolon is the enter key, and the slash is for the pause for the user input. Say, for example, you want the user to type an angle, 45 degree. Okay, you put the pause sign so they can, the command prompt will wait for the user input. Upon the input, it continues to. Now, once that command is done, I want it to trigger maybe insert command, AutoCAD insert command to insert the block. Similar procedure. It may ask you for the block name. Then the insertion point, which is a pause sign. After that, upon inserting, then scale and rotation and things like that. So you could come up with symbol macros, symbol procedures, and then have them all assigned under the CUI command-based interface too. So you could launch the CUI. Just for an example, I'm going to look at this particular one. Under the panel, we're going to find this seminar one. Now it's called a test. So you have a command. I could go, and this is the part, the macro area. So I could make a copy of the command and then copy paste my code or the set of actions over here to execute it. So you could call any command from this list and rename it, and then have your macros and the list of actions. So one thing to keep in mind, the first two Control-C there is for canceling the previous command, right? When you launch an AutoCAD command, for example, say I'm in the middle of the line command. When I hit a copy command, the previous command is canceled and the copy is launched now. So what it did behind the scene, escaped twice, right? So that's this Control-C in the CUI file. So you could take advantage of the out-of-the-box commands and then modify accordingly, or create your own set of macros and the custom commands within this AutoCAD tool. Okay. One other item I would like to mention: when you do that kind of buttons, you may need to, if there's a custom command, you may need to then change the image. You could create your own images. You could insert the image. Okay, so there are some options available there. Okay? You could customize the images going along with it. You could use the out-of-the-box Civil 3D ones, or you could create your own image too, right? So you could hit the edit button, you get a little window similar to the Windows Paint, and you could import another image and place it over there, or you could start drawing things to make your own image and save it too. Okay. So it's really easy to do the customization when it comes to the user interface. And once you learn the techniques on one item, say for example the ribbon item, exactly similar procedure for menus or the pull down menus. So you create a menu, then you add the commands, dragging and dropping, and then modify them. The only change you're going to find when it comes to shortcut menus or keyboard shortcuts. Okay, shortcut menus are the out-of-the-box ones, and the keyboard shortcuts, if you look at the keyboard shortcuts, you will find a big list there already available. Some of them we are already using it, Control-C, Control-V, Control-A, Control-R, Control-S for saving. That's a lot of them are arriving from the operating system. But in addition to that, you could have the AutoCAD commands launching with the control keys. One example is Control+3, tool palettes coming in. Control, you can see the complete list over here. Control+9, Control+6 is DB Connect. So these are the out-of-the-box ones. If you wanted to modify or include items, the way it works, say when you have a command in the list, the area below says access keys. You click inside, you get this shortcut window coming up. If you want to assign, say, instead of Control S, Control A, you hold the Control key and then press the character from the keyboard. So it takes it. You are not typing it here, but you are holding the Control key and then assigning the letter along with it. Same idea goes with the Control Shift. You need to press the Control and Shift key along with the letter to assign it. Right? So that's how you can take advantage of these keyboard shortcuts. Function keys. We have a list of function keys too. F1, F2, F3. All the function keys you could assign. Most of them are already assigned with AutoCAD commands and buttons. You could explore that. We also have the ability to customize the mouse buttons. These mouse buttons are, by default, it's just using the 3-button mouse. If you have a multiple button pointing device, you could go in there and literally assign commands to each button, and it will launch the commands. Okay. So that's all the main CUI file. Also, you will find the partial CUI files or the add-ons, I would say. It could be additional software installed. The menus are written in that software or tabs. Or you could create your own partial CUIs for different departments and then launch it, right? So it's organized in a different collection here, and it's easy to identify what are the partial CUIs and the out of the box, the main CUI file. Okay, so in my case, I have a number of applications installed. You'll find one for raster design, vehicle tracking, and sim manager suite, etc. over there. So that's what we have for the CU file. And as I mentioned earlier, as always, back up the file. You should have a CUI backup and then before starting this customization. All right, so let me switch back to the PowerPoint. So what we wanted to show today on this CUI part, some of the basics, some of the structures there, and how we can manage the AutoCAD interface with the CUI. Inside AutoCAD, the path or the locations under the options file, you will find the customization file, CUI mains customization. So that's the main CUI file. If you have an enterprise or company partial CUI, if you want to load it, that's where you could assign a secondary path or CUI file. So it will be loaded along with the main CUI file. In other words, you are not interfering with the out-of-the-box AutoCAD CUI and managing it in a different path with another file name. So that's how we can organize the data. And I'm going to talk a little bit about automation before passing it to Mustafa. We all know that AutoCAD API is so powerful and robust in a way. It's open in many areas. Programmers across worldwide, they love it and develop applications, based on the customer needs. So we have a good team in our company dealing with the customer demands and requirements. So we handle a lot of customization or automation, I would say, custom solutions. It could be based on the workflows to optimize the design process, increase the productivity. And a lot of them are sometimes CAD integrations. And we also have the power to bi-directionally sync between the data and AutoCAD. Could be anything, any type of data bases, or simple things like email, FTP, CSVs. Or if you wanted to have an app on the cloud and then interact with AutoCAD, custom fields. So automation is a big part in the AutoCAD industry, and we do a lot of projects. I just wanted to mention that. A number of clients we have currently, and this is just a small list from the big client list we have on the programming side. And I'm now going to hand over to Mustafa. He's going to take it from here on the automation, doing a couple of reviews and demos on some of the projects we have done with the clients. Take it from here, Mustafa. Thank you.
Thank you, Prem. Let me share my screen. Can you confirm you see my screen?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, Prem, for this. Prem talked about customization, which is basically, as we saw, you can have multiple commands run consequentially. In automation, it's a bit advanced in terms of you can kind of develop your own command. So I'll give here some examples of commands that we created, but put in mind that this is just examples. If you have a workflow, you imagine that this one can be automated, just reach us and then we can talk about how to automate this. And all of this project I'll show here, they start the same way. We approach it by a customer, he says, I want to do this, and then we automate it and create a new command. So this is, for example, part of a 3D project, which is creating tubes in a 3D dome. And the idea was creating an application that draw these tubes between like joints. So we have joint here, for example, and joint here, and want to draw the tube here. And also with this, we want to calculate like the length of the tube, the twist of the angle, because it might have different angle here. And this is in 3D. So we develop our own command that can be fired as any normal command. And when you fire this command, it will start to ask you about a requirement specific for this project. So for in this case, it asks you select a slot in hub A or joint A, then select a point in the tail direction. You specify the center point, and then you go for hub B. You do the same there, specify a point and specify additional point for the tail and specify the center. And this will open you kind of a dialog. This again, custom thing. So this is not a standard command, but ask you about the diameter of the tube, the thickness, and you add all information and you click OK. And this will do calculation to find the twist angle, the bending angle, and create the tube for you. So this will create the tube. And also, if you notice, it will create here a table that mention what tube you created, the length, the coin A. Like this is specific for this tube. So this is one example of automation we can do. I'll go to another example. And in this example, actually it's related to maybe some of you aware of this infrastructure Ontario, which whenever a construction company submit a project for them, they want to review this project first. So the reviewing consider like they have standard set of layers they want to make sure you use. They have a title block, they make sure you use their title block, etc. So this is kind of repetitive work for each project submitted to them. So you have to review each file, make sure the layers are correct, and like there is no XREF. They have set of rules they want to be followed. So create a command for them to automate this. Basically, whenever they receive a project, or even their customer, before they submit a project, they have access to the tool. So they run the tool, and the tool tells them, okay, this project is correct or pass the condition for IO, or no, you have to modify. So again, it's a command that you can write as any other command, and it will run and show you, okay, you have these layers, which is passing the condition, but also you have this layer that failing, like they have such standard naming for the layers you can't say, you have to choose. And from here, you have a list of options you have, like for example, if you do electric and you're doing OR and you have this minor, so this is a layer that should be used for naming. So you can use this layer to create a new layer or a name one. But here in this case, as you can see, some layers are running or correct, and some of them failing. Also, this tool, it shows a title block, which basically allow you to use a title block that is standard for IO, because they expect you to use this title block for all information for this project. And here you have scan, which basically scan all rules in the project and make sure it's failing or no, or passing. So if I hit scan here, I give you a warning, and then show you, and it says give you here, like for external references, this drawing passed. There is no errors regarding this one. But for file name, you have a problem. For this layers, you have a problem. And for layout, you have a problem. And this is the list of errors you have. Additionally, if this succeeded, you can generate a PDF that says pass. So we can submit this to IO, and then they know, okay, this drawing had passed the requirement without having to do everything manually. Also, they have another command for running for multiple drawing. So if you have a project and project consists of 10 drawings, for example, you don't have to run this command for each one of them. You can just simply open all of them and you say current open drawing, or even select files and button them here. And in this case, it will just ask you again to run and ask you where do you want to save your files. Let me put it, for example, in desktop. It says it's created. So now if I go desktop, I should find a report. Basically it says this drawing failed again, and give me the conditions that I have to fix before I submit. So it's kind of a iterative work. You run a report for the drawing, see which one failed and which one passed. And for the failed one, you just fix the problems you have. And then until you get past. Once you get past here, this means everything is running as expected to. And then you will be able to submit the drawing for IO. A third project I want to shed light on was one related more to doing calculation for 2D drawings, especially with elevations. And in this one, as Prem showed us, like you can have a custom ribbon or custom tab in your ribbon. The tool doing the same thing. So it basically creates a partial COI file and automatically inject it into your CAD. So you don't have to memorize, as I did in the other command, you don't have to memorize a keyboard shortcut to run. You just have here a list, and some of them even have kind of drop-down menu, and you can use it from the list here. So I just run quickly some of the commands here. So for example, they have a hatch command for perm hatch. You run this command, you select your first line, your second line, and it automatically create a hatch for you. They want a hatch like one long line until the end and the other one half distance. So this is the command for hatching. They have another command for creating stairs based on an elevation. So let's say you have an elevation here, and when you run this command, it asks you about selecting elevation to know what is your base elevation. Select the side path, which basically the path that the stairs will run along. And then you specify your start point. And while you are drawing here, you see how many steps you have created and the end level that you reach. So for example, it says, yeah, we created 43 steps for rise. And then this will go to elevation 193. And when you click here, you have here based on this elevation, this one is calculated. They have another commands for interpolation or like based on 2 points. So for example, if I run this command, it asks me select your first point and select your elevation. And he asks you what is slope you are having. You can specify whatever slope you want to. And then whenever you're moving, as you can see, you see based on the distance from this point and the slope you selected, they give you basically elevation at this point. So this helps them if there is a slope and they want to add points along the line. It will be easy rather than doing calculation. You automatically have it here, and when you click, you have your points created for you. Another one was between 2 points, which is again select a point and select an elevation, select another point and the elevation. And in this case, it interpolates the value between these 2 lines. So again, if you have a road and you have 2 elevations, so it can give you any values between these 2 items. And I just want to emphasize again, this is special for this customer, but you might have a completely different requirement. But again, whatever requirement, if it's available or if it's possible to do math calculation and call the API, then we'll be able to automate it in AutoCAD. So this will give me a point between these 2. Another example we have here was finding basically intersection points between 2 lines, or meeting points. So basically you select your curve. It can be a line, it can be an arc, whatever the curve you're using. And then you specify your first point. Again, reading the elevation value. And specify the second point and reading the elevation value. And we'll ask you what is slope from point A and slope from point B. And based on these 2 slopes and based on the elevation, it's find the intersection point. So if you have 2 roads coming from different way and you want to find what is the point that has the same elevation between these 2 points. So if I hit OK here, it will give me like this HP point will be here along this curve, and this will be the value. Now I have an option here to accept. And this is as a standard options. You can run it from here or type E, for example, to use it. If you want to accept this as point, or you want to adjust if you want to change the elevation. Let's say you want this point to be here. So in this case, you'd rather change the slopes you started from, like you started from 2% and 2% from here. Now, if I click adjust, as I move here, I see that, okay, if I am here, this will be 1.4 from this side and 3.6 from the other side, or it will be 2.7. So again, I can move along the curve and find the point I would like to use and put, and this will give me the point based on, right now, slope will be different, not the same as before. So this is kind of some samples or sample project or automation we did. Again, the main point is if you just have any workflow you feel it can be automated, you can reach us and then we can discuss with you, okay, this is possible to do an API and how this is how the command will look like. Prem, I will leave the floor for you again.
Excellent, thanks. Thank you, Mustafa. So Patrick, I think we got some time. If you want to open it up for questions.
Yeah, great. No, thank you, Prem. Thank you, Mustafa. Looks like we do have a question. Just gonna. So we have one question is, can I get my hands on the layer creation tool?
Is this like for the one I show for IO?
I believe so.
Yeah, so we developed this like for specific customers. So the tool is not like it's owned by the customer. But having said that, for Infrastructure Ontario is actually their tool available free in their website. So if you go to Infrastructure Ontario website, you'll find the link for this tool and then you can download it. It's an installer and you run the installer and should add this layer creation tool for all AutoCAD version, I believe from 2019 until 2022. And we upgrading to 2023 once it's available. So again, you just go to Infrastructure Ontario website and you find the tool there.
Yeah, just to add on to that, we have developed those set of tools for the client, and I don't know if you need a login to the website, but check that, and see if you have access to the website, and then you could download it from there.
All right, any other questions out there? Feel free to use that Q&A chat. All right, well, I think that might be it for questions there, Prem and Mustafa. So I do want to thank everybody for joining the webinar today. I hope that added some value. Or, oh, looks like there's another question. Question came up, says, how do you save your CUI?
CUI files could be saved within the AutoCAD. You could save as a copy. The best way I would also do, I could go into the, before even launching AutoCAD, I could go into the AutoCAD data folder and then make a copy of the AutoCAD.CUI and then rename it. That's the easiest way, the out of the box, if you want to make a copy, right? The whole thing, you get a copy. And inside the interface, you could save the workspaces. There's a save button that's going to be saving your existing one, and there's a save as option to do the workspaces too.
And Prem, looks like there's a follow-up to that question, is how do you upload them when you upgrade? I'm assuming that means when you upgrade to a later version of AutoCAD.
Yeah, let me assume, I'm assuming the same thing. So how do you upload them when you upgrade to a new version of Civil 3D? You could do in a couple of ways. One is with every new release of AutoCAD, when you install it, you're going to get a tool there to migrate settings. There's a migrate settings tool get installed with the AutoCAD. That's one approach. You could launch that migrate settings and then point it to the custom CUI file. It will be loaded. All the customization will be loaded when you launch the new version of AutoCAD. Another approach, say you forgot that thing, or you ignored that first window came up when you opened up the AutoCAD, then within the AutoCAD, you could launch it too. You could go to the options and you can point it to the other CUI file, which will be uploaded when you say apply into the AutoCAD options window too. Okay.
Questions are flowing now.
Oh, here we go.
This is a good question, actually. Is it the same method to create some toolbar menus and CUI for other versions of Autodesk software? So for example, Civil 3D.
The answer is yes, as long as the product is using an AutoCAD engine. So if there is an AutoCAD engine, which is Civil 3D, Map 3D, Architectural Desktop, Mechanical Desktop, Raster Design, you name it. So anything running on AutoCAD engine, the method is exactly the same.
Great. Thank you for those questions.
Thank you.
We'll keep the question panel open for a couple, maybe another minute or so. I did want to point out, just while we are at the tail end of our webinar here, we do have a couple additional webinars scheduled for the next couple of weeks. This is part 1 of our series. So the next one that we have is for March 15th, and that is going to be the management of tool palettes in AutoCAD. And then the third part is going to be on March 22nd, which is all about managing the AutoCAD Sheet Set Manager. So keep an eye out for those additional webinars that are a continuation of this one that we'd encourage you to register for as well. Just a comment from Andy is I have not had good luck using COIs from older versions. I found it best to use a partial COI and load it into the new COI. Prem, do you have any comments about that?
Well, that's a good observation, because the reason is every release of AutoCAD, they come up with a better way of displaying the buttons and icons. Let's say, okay, the old versions doesn't even know 4K technology or better imaging technology. So the old ones, the main CUI file were limited when it comes to the display of the images and some of those associated elements there. So the newer ones are much better. So you may find or right on, you may find like if you completely ignore the new CUI and load an old CUI file out of the pointing it, you'll find some issues, small issues with that. So it's better to add as a partial CUI, so you still have the AutoCAD main CUI engine kind of leading the way. So yeah, that's the best option. Yeah. Thanks, Andy, for that comment. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if there aren't, looks like we got one more open question here. So in continuation of the partial COI, Brian asks, can you demonstrate how to load the partial COI, Prem?
So there are, if you look at this main CUI, okay, the easiest way.
Oh, Prem, you're not sharing anything.
Oh, I'm not sharing, yeah.
No, not yet.
1 second. Am I sharing now? Can you see that?
You're good.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so you will find the CUI load command, right? So this is the one I would typically use, the command line version, and that will allow you to browse to a file, any CUI files, and then load it. It's going to come under this collection there. So CUI load is the easiest way to do that for partial CUIs. Okay. If you go through the other interface, no, I prefer, this is just for opening up the files and then loading it, the main one. But if you want to include the other one, it's this better way is the CUI load option. Okay. Any other questions?
Oh, Brian said thank you. So thank you, Brian, for the question. All right. I think at this point, we are coming up on the time for the webinar. So if you do have any further questions for either Prem, myself, or Mostafa, we'd encourage you to visit our SolidCAD website. There is a form that you are able to fill out to reach out to one of our representatives. If there's anything that you saw that interested you, or you'd like to have a discussion about further customizations or some of the functions that Mostafa was showing, please don't be a stranger and reach out to us directly. We're here to help. So with that all being said, thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you at the webinar next week. So cheers, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Goodbye.